Welcome back to Black Men Screaming. I'm your host, Maurice Carver. And joining us is Mr. Maurice Carney. He's the co-founder and executive director of Friends of the Congo. Welcome to the show, Brother Maurice.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be on with you.
You know, it's funny how small the world is. We're connected with at least three different people that I've heard you on the television. I heard you on radio, sharing your brilliance and your dedication to the work that you do. We just came through the month of October, and you had the Friends of the Congo had their Congo week, and I know that you really get out there to try to let people know what's going on, not only in the Congo, but what's going on in the continent of Africa. So we on Black Men Screaming want to salute you for the work that you've been doing and you continue to do.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate those words of encouragement.
Well, I'm telling you, when I listen to you, I'm so proud of you, Brother Maurice. I said another great Maurice.
That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up.
So when I reached out to you, I was trying to reconcile a problem I was having with us taking advantage, as African Americans, especially in the United States. They're building the Blue Oval plant in the Black Belt. There's a lot of Black farmers that are going to be selling their land or have to sell their land, but they're also going to be using that for opportunity to get jobs and maybe entrepreneurship to generate money. But I kept saying to myself, how do we reconcile that when we know that we have all of these minerals coming out of the continent of Africa, and yet it doesn't seem like it's equitable for us not to find a way to give back or to structure it in such a way that we help the brothers on the continent. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and some of the things that you might have been working on.
Sure. Thank you. Well, our organization, Friends of the Congo, is a Pan-African solidarity organization. We come in the tradition of the Friends of Abyssinia that was established by people like C.L.R. James and Amy Ashwood Garvey back in the 30s in an effort to defend and be in solidarity with Ethiopia when Ethiopia came under attack by the Italians. And so in the same spirit, the Pan-African spirit, we organize and mobilize in order to be at the side of the Congolese who we argue have weathered probably the most devastating attacks in the past 500 years of our history, what our sister Maureen Bani called the Maafa, the Congo region of the continent, saw or witnessed or experienced the largest extraction of Africans by Europeans to the Americas. According to Emory University slavery database, 4 out of every 10 Africans that were trafficked to the Americas came out of the Congo region. And by the same token, when the Europeans made a transition from strictly or mainly exploiting African bodies to the exploitation of African natural resources, Congo was front and center again in 1884 to 1885 at the Berlin Conference. Congo was given to King Leopold II as his own personal property. He owned it outright. As a result of that gathering of European nations and the United States. And within a 23-year period that he ruled the Congo, the population was decimated by half as the king extracted rubber and ivory, ostensibly to feed the industries of the West, the rubber industry, the bicycle and auto industry. And fast forward to today, from 1996 to the present, we see that an estimated 6 million Congolese have perished as we see resources such as coltan, which are vital to our cell phones, or cobalt, which is key to our batteries, rechargeable batteries, electric vehicles. So if you were to track our 500-year history, at least the part of it that's been tragic, you'd be hard pressed to find a place on the planet where Africans are that have suffered to the extent that the Congolese have, particularly as we speak to the question of the loss of life. So that's at the foundation of Friends of the Congo, to basically be in solidarity with Congolese people, raise global consciousness about what's transpiring in the Congo, which is of paramount concern to all of us, because when we speak about the Congo, we're talking about the heart of the African continent, the most strategic location on the continent, as our Pan-Africanist ancestor, Kwame Nkrumah, laid out for us, where he saw Congo being central to his Pan-African project, the United States of Africa, where he saw that Congo, envisioned Congo serving as the capital of the United States of Africa. So the heart, if you liken the African continent to the body, Congo is literally and figuratively the heart. So not only Friends of Congo, but all Africans that are concerned about the welfare and the future of Africa, the continent, and the global African family certainly ought to be, at the very least, aware about what's happening in the Congo, and be engaged in a solidarity effort with our brothers and sisters in the Congo. So when you bring the question up around the Congo, I think it's kind of interesting, brother. Malcolm X, as many of you, your viewing audience may know, he established the Organization of Afro-American Unity as a mirror of the Organization of African Unity. Malcolm X is a Black nationalist and Pan-Africanist, and he had a global view on the conditions of Black folks. And he was very clear that the Black folks catching hell in the United States is not fundamentally different from Black folks catching hell anywhere else in the world, because the same forces that the white supremacist forces, capitalist forces that are at play in the United States, that have our people, for all intents and purposes, in a colonial system, with colonial conditions. And when we talk about questions of our health, questions of our housing, questions of our education, the colonialism, internal colonial condition or state is not a stretch in order to describe what is unfolding with Black folks in the United States. So Malcolm is keenly aware of this. He did a lot of organizing and speaking around the Congo and Lumumba. And one of the meetings, gatherings in Harlem, somebody in the audience had asked, so Malcolm, we're catching hell right here in Harlem, right here in the United States. Why are we even engaged with dealing with questions around the Congo, basically halfway around the world? And he retorted, he said, to the brother, says, as long as you think that you have to get Mississippi straight before you get the Congo straight, you'll never get Mississippi straight. So he laid that out there, the connection that we are engaged in one struggle on different fronts. Brothers and sisters in Latin America, in Brazil and Colombia, are waging a courageous battle against white supremacy, capitalism. And the same here in the United States, throughout the Caribbean. And so that question of the global African family is of concern to all of us, irrespective of where we are. So we center the Congo as Friends of the Congo because the best and the brightest that we've produced center the Congo. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Sekou Touré of Guinea, Modibo Keita, of Mali, Frantz Fanon, Martinican, who was fighting with the Algerians against the French in Algeria. He has a book called African War Revolutions. He said, in that book, he says the fate of all of us is at stake in the Congo. The internationalist solidarity, Che Guevara, went to the Congo, saw it as the front lines against colonialism. So the centrality of the Congo, as it relates to the tragedy that we've experienced as a people, looms large. And by the same token, brother, the extent to which will be liberated as a continent and as a people is dependent in a substantial part on what unfolds, what happens with the heart of the African continent. So if Africans control the heart of the African continent, which is the richest piece of real estate on the planet, bar none, then that would accelerate our liberation. And Kwame Nkrumah understood this when he wrote The Challenge of the Congo. The early Pan-Africanists coming out of the independence era understood this. And even the enemies of Africans understand this clearly. The chief of station of the CIA, Larry Devlin, who overthrew Lumumba, and which led to his assassination, said that, we at the CIA, the United States, who got the order from President Eisenhower to assassinate Lumumba, Larry Devlin said, we had to overthrow Lumumba because we didn't overthrow Lumumba, but we risked not only losing the Congo, but losing all of Africa. So the United States poured the most money that it, at the time, into a covert action around the world in the Congo in the 1960s, and assured of bringing the Congo to its knees so it couldn't be utilized for the liberation of the continent as a whole.
When I've talked to a lot of the young people today, this whole philosophy of Black capitalism as a term that they feel would be able to save Black Americans as well as Black people on the continent. And so that I find it troubling that they would believe that capitalism would be the savior of Black people when it actually has been one of the reasons why Black people have been subjected. So, I mean, what do you think about this idea, this push that if, the more money we make, the more we buy into the system, the better we'll be off?
Well, I mean, we can discuss that ideologically, right? But I think it's a misunderstanding of capitalism. The way that capitalism was able to develop, brother. There's a Harvard professor. His name is Sven Beckett. He wrote a book called The Empire of Cotton, or the Cotton Empire, right? And he lays out that central to the advancement of capitalism was slavery. Eric Williams lays it out as well in Capitalism and Slavery, that the development of capitalism, the advancement of capitalism was grounded in and built on hundreds of years of free labor, right? These young Black folks in the U.S., and it's the same thing or similar thinking in some parts of Africa, that they think that they can develop through capitalism, like the United States. But you have to understand that capitalism came about or was advanced through slavery, through genocide, through the plundering of resources, all of that. So unless you're going to find some white folks that you're going to enslave for hundreds of years, and somewhere where you're going to steal resources to develop the Black community, it's just not a viable option. I mean, if you look at Black businesses today, or even Black banks, Black business, I think when you look at the gross receipts, if you look at census data, I think it's like less than 1%. You have 40 million Black folks. It's the status of a nation, and what they generate in gross receipts is less than 1%. If you look at the per capita wealth of Black folks, it's nowhere close to where white folks are. So there is no gap that capitalism is going to fill, or between Blacks and white, or advanced Black folks. It's going to have to be something fundamentally different, unless white folks are going to, even if white folks were to give reparations to Black folks, redistribute wealth, it would just be an enormous tax. So task. So it's not a viable option, in my opinion, to say that Black folks are going to advance through Black capitalism.
So one of the things that's been really troubling me is what's been going on in the Sahel region of Africa. A lot of these Francophone countries have decided that they said they've had enough, and they're trying to reestablish some type of independence from not only the French government but the French dollar or French franc. And I just really wanted to get your thoughts on what's been going on there, and kind of hope that you can explain it a little bit better than what is being explained on TV.
Sure. And I'll be really brief with it. What we're seeing happening in West Africa is this resistance against the practice of France-Afrique, which basically France-Afrique is a term that came about in French West Africa, where, for all intents and purposes, those countries that gained independence, African countries gained independence in the 60s, are still under French rule, on the French monetary policy, where the currency of those African countries, West African countries, are tied to the franc. Its reserves is placed in French banks. If they want loans, they have to go to France to get loans from when their own money is already in these French banks. So what has been developing over the past decade or so, or has accelerated, let's say, is this resistance to French domination in terms of French military, French monetary policy, French economics, French culture, the whole bit, right, has got the West African, Francophone speaking, French speaking West African nations in a dependent, impoverished condition, right? So what we've seen, and they've been able to do that in a lot of respects by overthrowing, initiating coups against progressive Africans for the last 50 or 60 years, ever since independence. Those Africans who stood up to the French has either tried to overthrow them, disrupt their economies, like we saw with Guinea and Sékou Touré when it rejected being a part of the French satellite or French sphere of influence in West Africa. People like Félix Moumié, who was assassinated by the French out of Cameroon. Silvio Olympio out of Togo. I mean, the list, a very long list. There's a film that was done. It was narrated by Lauryn Hill called I think it's On Violence, that speaks to this the type of violence that was used by the French in order to maintain control over West Africa. We saw it in I think it was 2011 or 2012. When Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast, there was a disputed elections with Alassane Ouattara, and the French went in on the side of Alassane Ouattara with their military and basically bombed neighborhoods in Abidjan and captured Gbagbo and sent him to the International Criminal Court for war crimes. He was ultimately released, but the damage was done. The French had their guy in place. So there's been a lot of puppets that have been put in place to keep the lid on the people, because the people are not stupid. They're like, we have all these riches, we have cocoa, we have uranium, we have, bauxite, we have gold, you name it, but we're still living in abject poverty. And we look at France. If you look at Niger, for example, look at France. France uses Niger's uranium in order to electrify France. But in Niger, you can hardly get electricity as an average person. So we see this throughout West Africa. And this system, this France-Afrique, this French-dominated system, is kept in place by agents of neocolonialism. I'm talking about like the Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast, Patrick Talon of Benin, Macky Sall of Senegal. These are some of the current, I guess, puppets that best way to describe them, or agents on the part of France. So what young people have done over the past decade or so, they've risen up to get rid of these agents, like the youth did, and organized under the Ballet Citoyen, a citizen's broom in Burkina Faso, when they got rid of Blaise Compaoré. And Blaise Compaoré was responsible for the assassination of the Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. So the youth rose up and got rid of him. And they did the same thing in Senegal when Abdoulaye Wade tried to undertake a constitutional coup. The youth rose up and blocked him, right? They under the organized youth force called Yarnamara, which means we're fed up. So early on, in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, we see youth rising up to resist the French. Now, at this same time, what has been happening is that the political and social space of West Africa is being militarized with the advent of AFRICOM out of the United States, the Africa Command, which is a military command for Africa, initiated by George Bush and Donald Rumsfeld in 2008. And then it was like put on steroids by Barack Obama when he came into office. AFRICOM increased some 2,000%. So what this did was it strengthened the military forces, on the African continent, in West Africa in particular. And when AFRICOM, along with NATO, bombed and conducted a regime change in Libya in 2011, I think 2011, 2012, around that time, 2011, I believe, that what that did is it resulted in creating instability and insecurity throughout the Sahel region, right, of West Africa. So you have a situation where you have dissatisfied population, a militarized environment, an environment that's awash in weapons that wind up in the hands of terrorists, and it's a cocktail for continued instability and disarray. So now today we see that the people are fed up, and as a result of this, the people being dissatisfied, we see leaders coming to the fore to act on behalf of the people. Because of the military sector has been strengthened, we see a number of coups in Niger and in Mali and in Guinea and in Burkina Faso. And what's distinct about the bulk of these coups is that the coup leaders are responding to the population because they know the population is dissatisfied, the population is mobilized. And with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, they are not only responding to the population in terms of their needs and their desire for security and change in their living conditions, but there's also a spirit of Pan-Africanism that's a part of it. The three nations just established what they call the Alliance of Sahel States, the Liptako-Gourma Accords, where they've formed a security pact, an attack against one of these nations, attack against all. And this bodes well, initially on first glance, for the advancement of Pan-Africanism. And that's been another undercurrent that's been unfolding in West Africa as well among the youth. You have young people who are trumpeting the Pan-African agenda. When they say Pan-African, they're saying that, in essence, we have to be unified as an African people if we want to survive, if we want to compete in this global landscape. We cannot compete as Benin or compete as Equatorial Guinea with a population of 2 million people, or compete as Gabon, right? We cannot even compete as Congo with 100 million people. 1.3 billion Africans need to unify in a way that they can protect and advance the interests of Africa at large. So the advances, the coups that have occurred in West Africa are a product of the aspirations of the people wanting change. They do not want any puppets that are tied to France to lead them anymore. They want their natural resources, their gold and the uranium and iron and all, the bauxite to the cocoa to serve first and foremost Africans, the primary beneficiaries, right? And we're talking about this question of capitalism and advancing this effort. And it is by Africans controlling our resources, our natural resources, our intellectual resources, right? And making sure we democratize those resources, not institute a system or perpetuate a system of capitalism, democratize those resources so that the masses benefit. And this is an advance that we see unfolding in West Africa. And it's incumbent on us here in the United States to join in solidarity with them in several ways. One, tell their story. Two, provide a platform to amplify their story. Three, actually travel to West Africa, be engaged with what's unfolding there, connect with youth movements there, connect with folks who are doing business in a way that can benefit the masses. We have some folks in our network. They're doing producing chocolate and cocoa out of the Dominican Republic, and they're traveling throughout West Africa to see if they can work with folks in Guinea, Ghana, Liberia. So remember, and this is not new. We go back to the mid 1800s, and we see our brother Martin Delany going to West Africa to negotiate cotton deals, right? So how much easier can we today be engaged in one fashion or another in business and social relations with our brothers and sisters on the African continent? But what has happened, brother, is that Africa has been used by everyone else, particularly Europeans, to get wealthy, right? The richest continent on the planet, bar none, but it's been plundered, it's been robbed, it's been pilfered. We, as descendants of Africans here in the United States, need to be engaged with our African brothers in doing good business, in doing just business, grounded in the principles of Ma'at, business grounded in the principles of Ubuntu. That's what we have to bring to this. And those Africans abroad have a long tradition of being engaged with Africans on the continent, right? The Pan-Africanism, the first Pan-African conference was organized by a Trinidadian, Sylvester Williams. Marcus Garvey, one of the biggest Pan-Africans in our history, a Jamaican, right, came to the United States to see Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington wanted to do business or set up institutions in Togo with the Tuskegee Institute. He resisted King Leopold II's intrigue in the Congo by being a part of the Congo Reform Association, wrote a piece called Savagery in the Congo. So those who've come before us, the Martin Delaney's, the Henry Highland Garnet, the George Washington Williams, the Booker T. Washingtons, the W.E.B. Du Bois, who organized a series of Pan-African Congresses on this side, outside of Africa, culminating the Fifth Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945, which was pivotal for bringing together future leaders of the African continent, Tom Mboya, Kwame Nkrumah, you name it. So the Pan-Africanism of yesteryear is very much alive today, and the leading edge of it right now is in West Africa, among the youth in West Africa. And it's incumbent on us to join in this current because we have material resources, we have intellectual resources, we have financial resources, we have access to networks that we can bring to the table that can help to accelerate and advance the progress that we're witnessing on the African continent.